At the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to a man standing on the very edge of a rooftop ledge, staring down at the city below him. Wind pulling at his jacket. Nowhere left to run. And in that single frozen moment, you find yourself asking, how does a man go from being completely invisible to the world to being hunted by everyone in it? That man is Eddie Mora. And this is the story of the most dangerous shortcut in human history. We are introduced to Eddie as one of those people the world seems to have quietly forgotten about. He is a writer. Or at least, he tells himself he is. He has a book deal, a cramped apartment that looks like a recycling bin exploded inside it, and a brain that refuses to produce a single coherent sentence. Weeks have passed. Months, maybe. And every time he sits down in front of that blank page, the same thing happens. Nothing. His mind is a locked room with no key and no door. Then his girlfriend Lindy delivers the final blow. Over coffee, calm and collected, she tells him it's over. She's tired of carrying him financially, emotionally, in every way that matters. She had believed in him once, but belief has an expiration date and has ran out a long time ago. Eddie walks out of that cafe looking like a man who just got hit by a car he didn't even see coming. And that's exactly when the universe decides to toy with him. Standing on the sidewalk, still processing the wreckage of his morning, Eddie runs into Vernon, the brother of his ex-wife. Vernon is not exactly what you'd call a role model. He looks rough, wired, like a man living several lives at once and struggling to keep up with all of them. But Vernon works for a pharmaceutical company, and he's got something in his pocket that he claims can change everything. A small, translucent pill. Clean. Almost innocent looking. He calls it NZT-48. Vernon explains it with the kind of casual confidence that only makes it more unsettling. The human brain, he says, operates at roughly 30% of its total capacity. NZT unlocks the rest. All of it. Every memory you've ever stored. Every skill you've ever glimpsed. Every piece of information you've ever absorbed without realizing it. Suddenly available. Suddenly usable. Eddie says no. He's not that desperate. Except he is. Vernon gives him the pill for free. Hands it over like it's nothing. Leaves his number and walks away. And Eddie stands there holding this tiny thing between his fingers, turning it over and over, telling himself he won't take it. He takes it. What happens next is genuinely hard to describe, because the movie does something smart here. It doesn't show you a montage of Eddie becoming a superhero. It shows you something quieter, something almost mundane. He gets back to his apartment building, and his landlord's wife stops him in the hallway, furious about overdue rent. Before Eddie can even apologize, his brain starts doing something it has never done before. He notices the book in her bag. He reads the tension behind her eyes. He processes a dozen tiny signals in under 2 seconds and understands. She's a law student. She's struggling. She doesn't want money right now. She wants to feel like someone sees her problem. So Eddie listens. He helps her organize her notes. He structures an argument she'd been wrestling with for days. And 45 minutes later, she walks away smiling. Grateful. Seen. Eddie goes upstairs and looks at his apartment with completely new eyes. The chaos is unbearable to him now. He cleans the entire place in a matter of hours. Then he sits down and writes. Not a few paragraphs. He writes for hours, the words flowing in a way he's never experienced before, each sentence landing exactly where it needs to. He works until he physically can't keep his eyes open, then collapses into sleep. Morning arrives and the clarity is gone. Just like that, the door is locked again. He's Eddie Mora, the failed writer. But his editor calls, then calls again, then calls a third time. Her voice is barely contained excitement. She says what he sent her is extraordinary. The best thing she's read in years. And Eddie realizes, with a creeping, hollow feeling, that he didn't write that. Not really. Some other version of him wrote it. And that version only exists inside a pill. He goes back to Vernon. He needs more. But when Eddie arrives at Vernon's apartment, something is very wrong. The door is slightly open. The place has been torn apart. And Vernon is dead. Body slumped on the floor, his face frozen in the expression of a man who saw it coming and couldn't stop it. Eddie calls the police. But even before they arrive, his mind, even without the pill, starts connecting the dots. Whoever did this was looking for the NZT stash, which means either they didn't find it, or they took it all. Eddie's eyes scan the ransacked room. The oven. He checks the oven. The pills are there, wrapped and hidden, along with a thick stack of cash. Eddie tucks the package away quietly, opens the door, and lets the officers in. At the station, he plays it calm. Didn't know what Vernon was involved in. Just happened to run into an old acquaintance. The police let him go, and Eddie walks out into the city with a pocket full of possibility and a dead man on his conscience. He takes a pill. What follows is one of the most fascinating stretches of the film. Eddie doesn't just use the drug to write his book. He finishes it in 4 days. For days. Then he starts studying the stock market the way a mathematician studies a proof. He takes Vernon's cash, $800, and turns it into $7,000 in 48 hours. Then he decides 7,000 isn't enough. He needs capital. Real capital. The banks won't touch him. No stable history, no reliable income. So Eddie does the thing you should absolutely never do when you're already playing a dangerous game. He borrows from a man named Gennady, a Russian loan shark with the kind of smile that doesn't reach his eyes. $100,000 at an interest rate that can only be described as criminal, which, of course, it is. Armed with that capital and connected to a trading contact named Kevin, Eddie starts operating on the stock exchange with a precision that borders on supernatural. By the end of the week, his brokerage account shows over $2 million. Word spreads fast in those circles. Because numbers like that don't just happen. That's how Carl Van Loon finds him. Van Loon is one of those men who runs the world from the inside. The kind of power you don't see in newspapers because it doesn't need to be seen. He's old money, old strategy, old patience. He invites Eddie to a meeting and mostly just sits there and listens. Watching, processing. And what impresses him is not just the numbers, it's the confidence, the fluency. The way Eddie talks about markets, the way a musician talks about notes. Van Loon is preparing the biggest corporate merger of his career, and he wants to know if this strange, brilliant young man is for real. Eddie leaves that first meeting having identified something Van Loon didn't expect him to identify. The exact company structure that could collapse the entire deal if left unaddressed. Carl barely contains his reaction. He schedules another meeting immediately. But here's where things start to fracture. Because while Eddie is riding the highest wave of his life, there are cracks forming underneath the surface. He notices a man following him. The same face, different locations, always watching. And more alarming than that, there are gaps in his memory. Stretches of time he cannot account for. He'll be walking down a street, and suddenly he'll be somewhere else entirely, with no recollection of how he got there. 18 hours gone. Vanished. One of those blackout evenings ends with Eddie in a hotel room with a woman he doesn't remember meeting. The next day, the news reports her body has been found. The woman's name is Melissa Winter. A witness placed an unknown man near her the night she died. And Eddie, staring at the screen, feels the floor disappear from beneath him. He fled from Van Loon's meeting in blind panic, barely holding himself together. This is the point in the film where everything accelerates. He tracks down a woman named Melissa, not the victim, but someone else connected to Vernon and the pills. He barely recognizes her. She used to be striking, magnetic. Now she's hollowed out. Exhausted, she tells him everything she knows, and none of it is good. She was once Vernon's client herself. The pill made her feel invincible. But then she started finding out what happened to the others who had taken it. Deaths. Hospitalizations, neurological collapse. The human brain, she explains with the weariness of someone who learned this lesson too late, was simply not built to function at that intensity for extended periods. She had managed to quit gradually, but the withdrawal left her with permanent damage, migraines, inability to focus, cognitive fog that never fully lifts. She tells Eddie to taper off slowly, reduce the dose, then stop. But if you are watching this and thinking that advice is going to be easy for Eddie to follow, you don't know this story yet. And before you find out how deep this rabbit hole actually goes, if you've been watching this far and you're not subscribed yet, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button right now, because we cover films like this every single week. And drop a comment below. Do you think you would have taken that pill? Be honest. Back to Eddie. The Russian loan shark, Gennady, hasn't forgotten about his $100,000, plus interest. He shows up demanding repayment, and in the course of that exchange, he spots a pill in Eddie's hand. His expression shifts. And just like that, Gennady's interest is no longer just financial. He wants the drug. He takes it without asking and demands more. Now Eddie has a loan shark dependent on a controlled illegal substance that's slowly killing people. Just to clarify, his situation is getting worse. Lindy comes back into the picture, and Eddie tells her the truth. All of it. She's horrified, not just by the drug, but by what it's turned him into. This version of him that's brilliant and magnetic and completely out of control. She loves him, but she's terrified of what she's watching happen. The moment that brings all of this to a head arrives when the man who's been following Eddie tracks down Lindy instead. She calls Eddie in a panic, running through crowded streets with someone on her heels who has already killed 2 bystanders just to get closer to her. She manages to hide, barely, and Eddie makes the choice to tell her where the emergency stash of pills is. It's the only option. What happens next is one of the most electric sequences in the film. Lindy takes the pill, and we watch through her eyes as the world suddenly sharpens. The noise becomes data. The crowd becomes a map. She doesn't hesitate, doesn't second guess. She reads the environment the way the pill was designed to make you read it. She grabs a jagged piece of ice from the skating rink, uses it to wound her attacker, and disappears into the city. It's terrifying and brilliant, and just a little bit beautiful. She reaches Eddie. He gets the pill. Together in a hotel room that night, Lindy tells him quietly that she finally understands. The pill doesn't just sharpen you, it replaces you. And Eddie, looking at her with the calm certainty that only NZT can produce, tells her he'll stop once everything is settled. Once he's secured enough to protect them both. He believes it when he says it. That's the tragedy. 2 months into his NZT run, Eddie is not a writer anymore. He is the central piece of the largest corporate merger in American financial history. Van Loon doesn't just value him as an employee, he values him the way a general values a weapon. And weapons don't get to leave. When Eddie asks for $40 million in exchange for his freedom and his silence, Van Loon offers him something different. Unlimited credit. Everything paid for, everything covered. His golden cage, freshly furnished. Eddie understands exactly what this is. Meanwhile, the murder investigation inches closer. A witness claims they can identify the man seen near Melissa Winter's body. Eddie's lawyer, Morris Brandt, engineers the identification procedure with surgical precision, ensuring the witness gets confused by lookalikes and is unable to make a positive ID. Eddie walks free from that nightmare too. But then, and this is the moment where the whole structure collapses at once, Eddie reaches into his hidden stash and finds it empty. Morris Brandt, his own lawyer, has stolen the pills. Gennady, furious and unstable, arrives at Eddie's apartment door demanding answers. And Eddie, without a pill in his system, is just a man again. He is about to step off a ledge, literally, back to that rooftop moment at the beginning, when he remembers. One last pill, hidden in a box somewhere in the apartment. He searches while the door shakes on its hinges. He finds it. He stumbles. It rolls across the floor. Gennady's men break through. What follows is brutal. Eddie is grabbed, threatened, told he will be tortured until he gives up every secret he has. But Gennady, overconfident, already altered by the NZT he's been taking, steps too close. Eddie had hidden a knife. The fight is short. The outcome is not pretty. And then, in a scene that genuinely unsettles you, Eddie realizes that Gennady had been injecting the NZT directly into his bloodstream for a faster, longer effect. And the drug is still in his blood. Eddie doesn't hesitate. He presses himself to the floor and absorbs what he can. His mind clears. Within moments, he has processed the entire situation, neutralized the remaining threats, and walked out of his apartment alive. That same evening, Hank Atwood, the executive at the center of Van Loon's merger, dies in the hospital. And Eddie quietly ensures that Morris Brandt, the lawyer who stole his pills, finds himself on the wrong side of the man Atwood had hired to protect him. The problems take care of themselves. 1 year later, we are introduced to a completely transformed Edward Mora. He is running for Senate. His suits are perfect. His posture is the posture of a man who has never doubted himself in his life. And Carl Van Loon, watching all of this from across a restaurant table, decides to make one last play. He leans forward and tells Eddie he knows everything. He found the lab that was producing Eddie's private NZT supply. He bought it, shut it down. He is now the only person in the world who can restart production. And in exchange for a steady supply, he wants influence, all the way to the White House. Eddie listens to this entire speech with the patient, slightly amused expression of a man watching someone play a game they don't know they've already lost. He tells Van Loon, calmly, that he anticipated this exact move. He set up multiple labs simultaneously in different locations months ago. He also spent the past year accumulating detailed information on Van Loon's own medical history, business dealings, and vulnerabilities. Then, just to make the point absolutely clear, he glances at Van Loon's chest and tells him, with quiet certainty, that the magnate's heart is functioning at less than half capacity. That within the not-too-distant future, without surgery, he will die. Van Loon's face goes pale. Eddie stands up, buttons his jacket, and walks away. Not running. Not looking back. And the final scene is quiet and perfect. Eddie, sharp and composed, sits down to lunch with Lindy and places an order in fluent Mandarin. Without thinking about it. Without effort. He doesn't even look up from the menu to see her smile. He doesn't need to. Because the man who once stared at a blank page, who couldn't pay rent, who got left by the woman he loved, who almost died a dozen different ways, that man is gone. Not destroyed. Not erased. He was the foundation. And this is what was built on top of him. Now, this film asks a question that's haunted people since the moment it came out. If you could take a pill that unlocked everything, your full intelligence, your full memory, every skill you've ever been exposed to, would you take it, even knowing what it might cost you? Because Eddie Mora took that pill, and it cost him his safety, his identity, 2 years of his life, and almost everything else. But it also made him unstoppable. So drop a comment below and tell us, would you take the NZT pill? And if you haven't subscribed yet, you are genuinely leaving value on the table. We break down films like this every single week, the kind of movies that leave you thinking long after the credits roll. Subscribe now, hit the notification bell, and we'll see you in the next one.